Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all of J.S. Bach's chorale harmonizations. Today we're looking at dich, gehoffet, Herr, which translates to, in you I have placed my hope, Lord. All in all, pretty straightforward chorale. Some interesting modulations that happen here in the latter half of the movement, but all in all, everything pretty much functions the way that we would expect. And we should just hop right into the analysis. First thing I'm noticing is that the fermatas the fermate did not make it into the chorale. Let me just go add those real quick. We have one flat in the key signature. We start on F major, we end on F major. I reckon we are in the key of F major. We have a passing seventh on the bass here. We have D, A, D, and F, which is a D minor triad in root position, which is 6. This B flat is a passing tone. That's how I hear it. However, this B flat, this A could be an accented non-chord tone, and this B flat could be the chord tone that we're looking at, which would turn this chord into 4/6. Bach does that with some chords, so they're ambiguous, but they more or less achieve the same function. It's just a different sound. But yeah, they're more or less the same chord. They're just different by one tone. We then have C, C, E, and C, which is a C major sonority without the fifth. That's our dominant. Passing seventh in the bass. And then we get A, F, F, and C, which is our tonic triad, F major in first inversion. Passing seventh in the alto. We then have B flat, G, D, and B flat with a passing tone in the melody. That is G minor over B flat, which is 2/6. And then we have C, C, E, and G, which is another C major triad in root position. That's a 5 chord. Then we have F, C, F, and A, which is our tonic triad in root position, F major. Then we have D, D, F, and B flat, which is a B flat major triad in first inversion. That's 4/6. We get a passing tone in the melody, and this B flat is a chord tone, so no need to analyze or mark that. And then we get C, G, E, and G, which is C major in root position. That's our 5 chord. And then we cadence on F major, F, A, C, and F, making this a perfect authentic cadence. Okay, looking ahead, we have another one of these ambiguous half cadence / perfect authentic cadences I've been talking about at length in my videos. I think it's really fascinating. I hear it as a half cadence, but you could analyze this in the key of C as well. But we definitely stay in the key of F for pretty much everything up until the cadence. The last bar is what's ambiguous. So we have another F major triad. The bass leaps up an octave, but it's otherwise the same spelling. E, G, C, and G is C major over E, that's 5/6. And that goes to F major, F, F, C, and A, which is our tonic triad. Passing tone in the bass. We then get D, F, D, and B flat. That is a B flat major chord in first inversion, so 4/6. Notice how we're saying 4/6 on the harmonic rhythm, more so than we're seeing 6, which makes me think that this might actually be a 4/6 chord with an accented non-chord tone, kind of like a suspension, but going upwards, if you know what I mean. It would be like a 5/6 suspension, but in reverse. We then have E, E, G, and G. This is an interesting chord. There's lots to pick apart here in terms of what it could possibly be. There is the possibility coming from 4 that this is a 7 chord in root position, which he is doubling the leading tone, which is, interesting, but it is very brief. So the fact that we have D, F, and F happening at the same time kind of weakens that analysis a little bit. There's the potential that this could be a rootless 5 chord in first inversion, because E and G is shared between C major and E diminished. But this chord right here is confusing because it lacks a 5th or a root. We don't know if it's missing a root or we don't know if it's missing a 5th. But ultimately I would expect 7 to be here because it comes after 4. And that's typically where we see 7, either after a tonic or after 4. So then we have C, G, E, and C, which is a root position 5 chord. that leaps up in the bass, and we get a anticipation, another F, and then a D here. So all these are non-chord tones, but we don't really get an analyzable chord. We get D, F, F, and D. And then we get G, F, D, and B natural. That is G7, which is 5/7 of 5, because G is the dominant of C, and C is our 5. Then we have some more non-chord tones going on. This E is a non-chord tone, this G is a chord tone, but this D is also a non-chord tone, so actually only just one, even though there's a lot of activity going on contrapuntally here. And then we cadence on C major, C, E, G, and C, which is our dominant. Now if we were to analyze this section in the key of C major, it would be 1, 5, 7, 1, like so. If you heard this as a perfect authentic cadence, and really it's right on the line. I hear it as a half cadence because this C wants to resolve down to F or up to F. That's just the way that I hear it. And we only get B natural right before the last chord in the cadence, which isn't enough for really a modulation for me. So that's just the way that I hear it. If you have a difference of opinion, here's an analysis in C major. I think both are valid. Alright, next we have another half cadence in the key of C major. This one, or sorry, in the key of F major. We cadence on C major here, and this is very much a half cadence because we get no chromaticism, and we have the fifth of the chord in the melody, which tends to be a hallmark of the half cadence, especially in Bach's writing. So we start off with an F major triad, F, C, A, and A, which is a root position F major chord. Some passing tones, one in the bass, one in the alto. Then we get D, D, F, and A. Again, we see a similar progression that we started off with, so you can mark this as 6 literally, or if you hear that B flat as the chord tone, this could be 4, 6. They more or less achieve the same thing. We then get A, C, F, and C. So here's our variation from the progression we saw before. This is F major in first inversion, so that's 1, 6. And then we get a passing 7th in the alto. Then we get B flat, D, D, and B flat, which is a 4 chord, B flat major without the 5th. Again, seeing these chords that don't have a 5th, it makes it kind of hard to know whether it's 2 or whether it's 4. And then we get C, C, E, and A. That is A minor in first inversion, which is 3, 6. And when we see this pattern of a chord going to the chord below it in first inversion, we would expect a 4 chord in first inversion. We see that pattern in a lot of Bach's music. This pattern of taking a chord and inverting it a beat or 2 beats later and having the chord in between it be a diatonic step below it and in first inversion. So here we get D, D, F, and F, which is kind of sort of what we're going for, but I would say that this is more so a D minor chord than anything else, so scratch that. However, 3, scratch what I said before about the chords connecting, but then again, you know, 6 is kind of a substitute for 4, and 3 wants to go to 6 via the cycle of falling fifths, so let's take a look and see what we get here. So this B flat and this C, those are both non-chord tones. This E is a non-chord tone. That D is a chord tone, but this C isn't, and this G isn't a chord tone either. So we have a lot of contrapuntal accents going on here. And then we have A, F, C, and A, which is a first inversion F major chord. We've seen this progression before, 6 going to 1, 6. And then we get a passing tone in the bass and a passing tone in the alto before we cadence on C major, C, C, E, and G, which is a 5 chord. Next cadence is an imperfect authentic cadence in the key of G minor. I don't think we immediately kick things off into the key of G minor, but it definitely sounds like a minor cadence by the time we get to it. It's a short phrase, and modulations over short phrases are always kind of difficult to pinpoint. But we start off with F major, F, C, F, and A. Then we have some passing tones going on. And then we get B flat major, B flat, D, D, and F, which would be 1 going to 4. And this is where I think we modulate to G minor. We get a 3 chord here, so 4 is the same as 3 in the key of G minor. We then get A, C, E, and G, However, I think these two are accented non-chord tones, and we're really looking at F sharp, A, and C, which would be 7/6 in the key of G minor, and then we cadence on G minor, G, D, G, and B flat. So 3, 7, 6, 1. Kind of an unusual progression, but not unprecedented. We've seen 3 go to 7 before. It's kind of a transitive progression. If 4 wants to go to 7, and 7 wants to go to 3, why can't 3 go to 7? So whether you're a fifth below or a fifth above, I think chords are okay working in both directions. And that's what Bach has kind of shown us in the chorales. Then we have another imperfect authentic cadence, but this time it's in the key of B flat. And I know that the two chords are related to, or the two keys are related to one another, and we could just say that in the key of B flat, this is 6. However, it sounds a little bit more direct than that. But all in all, it's really not the end of the world. We get D, D, F, and A, which is D minor. That would be a 3 chord in the key of B flat. And part of the reason why it sounds direct, because we would expect a dominant with the F sharp in the key of G minor. So maybe we already have modulated up by this point. Who knows? Maybe I'll just put that there just in case you hear that more as a direct modulation. I think it's very valid that that is the case. We then get E flat, B flat, E flat, and G, which is E flat major in root position. That's a 4 chord. And then we get D, C, E flat, and A, but I think this D is an accented non-chord tone, and it's really C, C, E flat, and A, which is A diminished in first inversion, so that would be a 7/6 in the key of B flat, and then we cadence on B flat, F, D, and B flat, imperfect authentic cadence. And of course our last cadence is a perfect authentic cadence in the key of F major, so in keeping the analysis consistent with common chord modulations, we can call this B flat 4 in the key of F, and just start analyzing in the key of F at the beginning of the next phrase. We get F, F, C, and A, which is F major in root position, which is our tonic. We then have E, G, C, and G, which is a C major triad in first inversion. We then have D, A, D, and F, which is a D minor triad in root position. Got a little passing tone here in the alto. Then we have E, G, G, and C, which is a first inversion C major triad, just like how we had on the first beat. And we expect that to go to 1, F, C, F, and B flat, but of course that B flat's an accented non-chord tone, and it's this A that we're looking for, so that is a tonic triad. We then have C, C, E, and G, which is another C major triad in root position. We have F, C, F, and A, which is a tonic triad, F major in root position. We leap down to B flat, and we step up to B flat in the outer voices before we get C, C, F, and G, but this F is just being suspended over the C. It's a 4/3 suspension, and it resolves on beat 4 of the measure before we cadence on F major, F, C, F, and F. But it's an open 5th, so there's no 3rd. Very Renaissance sound. I think kind of something that makes it particularly striking is the fact that the C is held for such a long time, and it never goes down to A to make the triad feel, well, triadic. This is just an open 5th, and it's not unprecedented. Bach has cadenced on open 5ths in the past. He might have even ended a chorale on an open 5th, but it's still interesting to see because it's kind of taking a step back in terms of harmonic progression, right? We know an F major triad's being implied, but the fact that there is no 3rd is unusual for sure. But that concludes today's analysis. A quaint little chorale with some interesting phrase-to-phrase modulation going on in the second system. All in all, harmony pretty much functioned the way that we would expect. Not super exciting, but it was a straightforward analysis with little ambiguity. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. I love the fact that there are people who are following me along on this journey, maybe are even going on the journey with me and analyzing as well. I'm really excited to see where this journey takes us. I think we've already learned so much by looking at Bach's chorales, and I'm excited to learn more and further justify some of the some of the lasting postulates that I've been making as I've been looking at his chord progression. Some things are really starting to stick and really codify. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you take care.